seconds to.
It's a montage. That's what I think of it as a response time.
Stuart, give me 10 seconds. Okay, we'll call to order the regular City Council meeting of August 8th, 2022. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Here.
Savia,
Here.
Albrecht,
Here.
Gold,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Sage.
Here.
Will you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, on this hot, steamy night. It's nice and cool in here, so that's good. Okay, so first we're going to go to the public comment, scheduled, non-scheduled presentation. But what I would like, if the City Council would agree to it, is to move the presentation of the OPC budget to the first part of the budget, to the meeting, so then they can give their presentation, and then we will get to the part of choosing a new City Council person. So that's, if people are good with that, Renee, Tim, why don't you come up, welcome, and you're on.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Vixen, and welcome to council members today. All right, Tim Sauvé, OPC Administrative Director, and I are here today to present the 2023-2025 budget. And I'd first like to recognize our representative on the board, which is Nancy Salvia from the Mayor Pro Tem. And also we have Al Fisk, who is our senior representative on the OPC's governing board. So, of course, we've had another year of achievements. We've weathered the COVID storm, and we are just busier than ever at the center. And so I'm really excited to go over some of those accomplishments from the last year. All right, so this is our community impact report. So our supportive services. As you can see, our mini buses traveled approximately about 42,000 trips, getting the seniors to their medical appointments, dialysis, shopping, social trips to the center. And then, of course, we have our nutrition department that prepared, served, and delivered 98,155 meals. Again, as I always wanted to remind you that we not only provide meals for Rochester, Rochester Hills, and Oakland Township, but we also provide the meals for Auburn Hills, Addison, Brandon, Oxford, Orion, and Independence Townships.
Wow.
So we have the home delivered meals, which was 89,000, and then we have the congregate meals or the dining in meals that occur at OPC that provides for socialization, a nutritional meal, and then we also have those at Lake Orion and Brandon Township. So our senior services, when we say the 5,000, almost 5,100 units of service, that includes our information referral. We have 2 facilitators that provide that service. We also have 2 commodity food programs that we facilitate out of the program. We have counseling, our Medicare, Medicaid counseling services through the MAP program. Then we have our various support groups, our Parkinson's, the Vision Support Group, our Caregiver Support Group, our Grief Support Group, and then we have many equipment loans that go out through the center throughout the year. We've had 22 participants in our adult day service. We're open 3 days a week at this time. We're hoping to open up to the 4th day, on Monday, but we've had a steady flow of individuals that have really benefited from our adult day service, especially, with the social isolation during COVID. So those caregivers are getting the respite they need, while those individuals are getting the wonderful socialization in our amazing program at the center. Then we'll go on to our programs. So our fitness and aquatics, we had over 100,000 participants in this, and of course, many of those are duplicated, many of them coming for pickleball. Swimming, of course, was very popular. That's probably the second biggest activity within the center when it comes to the fitness and aquatics. But the place is hopping. It was especially hopping today because we had some rain and the pickleball players were back. So it always is interesting, the ebb and flow of it all. But we definitely have a wonderful ebb right now. And I just want to remind you, and you'll see that later on, but we had a wonderful capital improvement project, which was our cardio and weight room being combined. We took down a couple of walls, and that has really created a nice buzz within our membership. They're enjoying that. It's a nice wide open room. And what we've learned from COVID is what? We need to have those wide open spaces where people feel safe and they have that social distance. And we really have been able to do that. And I'll show you later on some of the activities that we've done in capital improvement projects that we have completed in this last year. But our performing arts is back, and we've had 2 wonderful successful shows, our spring and our fall show. We're getting geared up again for another fall show in September, well, that's going to be in October. And then, of course, our volunteers are back and full. And honestly, again, I just want to recognize our amazing volunteers at the center that all through COVID continued to deliver Meals on Wheels, continued to come back into the center when they were allowed to help prepping the meals. So I just can't say enough for the volunteers that work at our desks in the center. They're really committed to the mission and the vision of the organization, which is just fantastic. And then our travel is also kind of ramped back up, as you can see, and we have a couple of big trips that are going out this fall to Switzerland.
Wow.
So we're back at it again in that arena. Go to the next page. And these are the capital improvement projects that I had mentioned. We have a wonderful history wall, which also provides a TV screen recognizing our wonderful donors throughout the years. So I would invite you at some point in time to come over and see that. And then we have our atrium was redesigned. And again, that allowed now by having the doors going into the atrium from the lobby. We are adding another location for us to have programming. Again, that social distancing. And prior to that, individuals had to walk through the adult daycare to get to the atrium. Now we've totally taken that away. We kept the ADS private, and so we don't have people walking out of there. And now we've created another wonderful opportunity and location for meeting, and it's fantastic. We have the next. So last year, our Stone Cottage Memorial Garden, we were able to, the bricks had started settling over the years, and what they had used as a paver blocks actually started to deteriorate and was a tripping hazard. We added in some new paver blocks, and now actually it's a memorial garden where you can honor or memorialize an individual from your family or friend and buy a brick. So we do have that available for anybody, the community at large. And again, we have some new carpet in our library and our offices. So I'm really pleased about that. I did mention earlier that we did have the renovation in the cardio and weight room. I did not add that picture, I'm just realizing that, but I just want to invite you to come over to see it all. So we'll go on to this. So here are our budget highlights, and I'll turn that over to Tim to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, you can read the budget highlights there. They're also part of your package. I'm not really going to go over each individual one. Basically, it is a stand-pat budget. We are recommending a 3% salary increase consistent with our salary administration project, which was approved 2 years ago. Fringe benefit costs are slightly up. Obviously, healthcare is up a little bit. That's about what we anticipated, so it isn't a big surprise. The rest of the costs are pretty much stable. We have added inflationary factors, particularly since our interlocal agreement, we must provide nutrition, must provide transportation, and food and gas is the highest costs we're facing. So we are trying to cover those the best we can. The most significant part of our budget is capital. Our facility is older. I think, as you know, per the interlocal agreement, we're not allowed to borrow money. So any capital improvements, any capital changes have to be either raised by funds through sponsorships or saving of money. And the OPC board 2 years ago set aside half their fund balance for capital projects, which grows every year. This year, in the regular operating budget, the revenues exceed expenditures by $415,000, so we'll use that towards capital. We're also going to take about $300,000 out of our fund balance. We have to rework the roofing across the facility. We're going to do it over 3 years, over 3 phases. We should be able to afford that, and we also have HVAC issues, which eventually we'll have to take care of. So our biggest needs right now are capital. We think we have a plan to cover it, and the capital plan is in the budget, so it's there as well.
Any questions? Is that? Yeah. Councilmember Albrecht.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm a user of the facility, so I enjoy it. I know the fund balance is 25% of expenditures, which I see on slide 38 in our packet. Is that, are we just at 25%, Tim, or are we above that?
No, we are, right now, our total fund balance,
I didn't see where it said the percentage, so.
yeah. Right now, our total fund balance for this budget year is actually 81.86%.
All right.
Of that, the board has split it. 25% remains in fund balance as an emergency. Half of the remaining fund balance goes for budget stabilization, and the other half to capital improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Tim. And thank you for all the staff that I know has worked hard on putting together this budget. And the board at the OPC has, I think, also worked hard to make sure that the capital improvement plan is on target and we're planning ahead. You know, projects like roof and HVAC we have to plan for, and I think the board is doing the right steps to kind of plan for those. So it's a great place that we all love to participate in and do wonderful things. So I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget resolution, which is on page 50 in our packet as presented.
Support.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Is there further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you, Renee, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a short little announcement. So on another note, I'd like to give a update on our rebranding. There was an announcement that was made a couple of weeks ago. And first of all, we've received incredible feedback, positive feedback, through a survey and through focus groups that were put in place back in February and March for the rebranding process. So we've stepped away from the name that was originally announced, and we are moving forward with the Rebranding Committee, in which, of course, Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Salvia is part of, to establish another assumed name for our incredibly dynamic center. So we be sure that you will be aware of when this is going to happen, and we'll have ribbon cutting and so forth when that occurs. But we're excited and moving forward with a really positive rebranding. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Tim, thank you for not bringing your Spartan gear like you usually do.
He's in the theme color.
There you go, there you go, all right.
OPC purple.
All right, next we have the consideration of an appointment to a vacant city council spot. As many of you know, or in the audience may or may not know, Councilmember Amanda Harrison resigned to take a job out of state. So this spot would fill the term ending November 23rd, November 2023. Okay, so it's a year and a few months. Everybody has had the names, and I'm going to read the names of the people. Debbie Allen, Christian Hauser, Richard Kenziak, Rachel Moore has withdrawn, Terry Tesh, and Terry Tesh is not available tonight, so he will not be here, and Marilyn Trent. So those are the ones we're considering tonight. We've all had 2 weeks to consider it, and council has had an opportunity to do whatever they chose to do, and the applicants have had an opportunity to do whatever they chose to do. So tonight, we're going to offer the applicants an opportunity to speak, hopefully briefly, and to answer any questions that a council person may have. You do not have to speak. You are, you can or you cannot. It's completely up to you. And then we're going to accept nominations, and then we will vote. And if there's a person who receives 4 votes, you need 4 votes, that person will be seated. If not, then we will go from there. And I think I'd just like to mention, we have a wealth of excellent candidates. Thank you very much for participating in this process. And just the way this process is, I think we're all feeling like we might have to make uncomfortable votes. So just know that, a vote for one person is not necessarily a vote against another person. It's just for that person. But, this is a public meeting, and so the vote has to be public. So are there any questions council has before we get started? Okay. So I will ask for volunteers for whoever wants to come up first. So anybody wants to? Marilyn, you want to come on up? Don't be shy.
Yeah, Marilyn.
Okay.
Marilyn Trent, 624 West University Drive, Rochester, Michigan. Good evening, everyone. I am honored to be here to request to fill the vacant seat of Councilwoman Amanda Harrison and ask for your support to join the Rochester City Council. I have been a resident of Rochester for 32 years, and my husband and I have raised 2 children that attended Rochester Community Schools. And I've had a business here since 1992. I've lived in many places before I moved to Rochester in 1990, and that's why I think it's a very special place, and I know it's the best place I've ever lived. In my opinion, most of its uniqueness is that the people of this community that live here are caring and giving. The proof of it is everywhere. If you think about it, there is a nonprofit organization or a service for almost any interest and need within its 3.82 square mile boundaries. And it's going to take a little longer, Mayor Bixson, because I'm going to list them. I think we all know, but may even take them for granted. Starting with the OPC Social Activity Center that you just saw a presentation on with its Meals on Wheels and their virtually free volunteer-based transportation minibus service that my stepdad and my mother have used judiciously. And my mother is 96, and it's a wonderful service. Paint Creek Center for the Arts, a highly respected art center that presents the nationally renowned Art and Apples Festival. Dinosaur Hill Nature Center. Rochester Symphony Orchestra. It's not a band, it's an orchestra. It's a professional orchestra. And Neighborhood House that was founded in Rochester. The Clothes Closet. The Community Foundation of Greater Rochester. The Community House. Rah-Rah. Avon Theater. Rainbow Connection. Avon Historical Society. We are a member of the Tri-City Paint Creek Trailways Commission, and much more. Need I mention the green space and the 2 trails as another reason people move here, and the award-winning Rochester Downtown Development Authority with our vibrant downtown and the annual Big Bright Light Show. I can say, as a resident and as a business owner, I have either volunteered for, done work for, donated work to, or participated in most of them. I was appointed to the Rochester DDA Board in 2007, and I continue to serve there today. I am also a liaison for the Rochester Regional Chamber of Commerce. I have served as a board member for the Rochester Regional Chamber of Commerce since 2015, and in 2021, I was appointed board chair. and I currently serve in my last year as an advisory position. I founded the Rochester Pollinators in 2019 because of the 90% decline of the monarch butterfly, and I am now a committee of the City Beautiful Commission, of which I have been a member since November 2021. The Rochester Pollinators has been phenomenally successful, and I attribute the level of success that we have attained because of this city council, and I thank you. Why? I'm a good fit. Almost done. Not only do I love this community and its people, its shop owners, its stakeholders, and have put in hundreds of volunteer hours, what I bring to this city council that I view as valuable is this. Number one, my vast experience of knowing this community and the tapestry of the interconnectedness from economic development to the local nonprofit organizations that I mentioned, to how city government, its employees, the city council, its boards and commissions, how they all work together to make this a great community. This means there won't be as much onboarding for me. Number two, the city council is well-run and offers a high quality of services, and I will continue to support that. Number three, I have owned a business for 30 years, and I know the importance of running in the black with no debt. And I know the value of keeping the AAA bond rating intact for this city. I know that's a big part of what the city council does, and to keep a balanced budget while keeping services at the highest quality. It's not easy. Number four, I am a good collaborator, and I have worked with over hundreds of businesses and nonprofit organizations to solve complex problems, and I've done so successfully for 3 decades. Number five, the last reason, Rochester is a designated water town. It's also a tree city, and I want to continue to support that. For these reasons, I know I am a good replacement to step into Councilwoman Amanda Harrison's shoes. I know they are big shoes, albeit stylish ones. I would be honored to have your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for
I have a question.
Councilmember Sage?
Thank you again, Ms. Trent, for coming in and for applying. One question I would ask any applicant, so I guess for all those that will address us tonight. Should you be appointed, what is your intention in the November 2023 election? Are you willing to run?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Marilyn.
Okay.
Next, Rich, you want to welcome?
I put together a presentation.
Yeah, we have that.
Can I advance it here?
Yep. Brian?
Actually,
Yep, there you go.
Okay, Brian will do it? All right.
He's the voice behind the screen.
Yeah,
So-
These are odds.
Yeah.
here, kind of.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Kenjuk, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to apply for the vacant council position. Hopefully, over the next 5 minutes or so, I'll be able to tell you a little bit about myself, what I've accomplished that I think will help, is directly related to some of the things that the city council does, and hopefully demonstrate why I'm qualified for the position. Next slide, please. Oh, you're where you should be. Okay. In October, I'll be a resident of Rochester for 20 years. I have 2 boys. They both graduated from Stoney Creek High School, one in 2008, one in 2010. And through my career, I've worked for very small businesses. First company out of college was less than 10 employees. I've worked for medium-sized businesses, and I've worked for Fortune 10-sized companies. And I've also owned a small business. In fact, I owned it for 10 years prior to retiring in December of 2015. In my lifetime, I've got over 20 years of community service. The last 12 and a half years, I've been on the board for the Stoney Creek Ridge Homeowners Association. The last 10 and a half years or so, I've been in charge of their landscaping and infrastructure. The first 6 years, I was also the secretary on the board, so there was some overlap where I did both jobs. And then prior to that, when I lived in Troy, I was the president of the Crescent Ridge Crescent Park Homeowners Association, and that was particularly challenging because at that time, we had over 260 homes, and our budget was less than $10,000 because the developer started everyone off at $25 a year. So there was very, very
Like
little
that.
that we could
Thanks.
afford to do. Next slide, please. Wanted to tell you a little bit about Stoney Creek Ridge. I did a little bit of research, and I found that, we have 465 homes, and when I compared that against some information from SEMCOG, that's roughly 8% of the households in Rochester. I also took a look at some U.S. Census Tract data, and we have a little more people living in our area than the rest of the city. We have about 2.8 people per household, so that translates into roughly 10% of the population. And then I also took a look at BSA Online and compared it to the 2022-2023 budget, and the residential taxes, I'm not talking about all taxes, but the residential portion, we pay as a community of about 14%. I couldn't find any hard data, but the area outlined on that map, if you include the space in between, which is actually part of our subdivision, we're probably the largest landmass in the city. Our subdivision covers over 250 acres. Next slide, please. Our association, I believe, is very, very unique. Once upon a time, councilperson, shared with me that they felt that the city of Rochester was a very large homeowners association. I like to think that Stoney Creek Ridge is a city within a city. We do a lot of things that most other communities throughout the city do not. In fact, if you take a look at those items on that list, I can honestly say there is no other community within Rochester that is responsible for all the things that we are. Major difference between us and others is that we're a all-volunteer organization. We are self-managed. We are not managed by a property manager. And over the last several years, that has even been a very challenging task because through attrition, people moving out of the sub, and people retiring, we've lost a number of volunteers. In fact, on my committee alone, 10 years ago, we had 12. Now I have 4. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe we've ever had a council representative from our community over the last 20 years. Next slide, please. In terms of accomplishments, these are things that I've been personally involved with that I think pertain to, what I could contribute to the city council. In 2012, when I first became in charge of the Landscape and Infrastructure Committee, my annual operating budget was $192,000. 10 years later, it's down to $175,000, so it's about 10% less. But on top of that, we're providing a whole lot of additional services. One thing, for example, is that we implemented a tree canopy preservation program where we're basically treating about 400 trees throughout the sub and trying to maintain their health. Another thing is we cut energy consumption because almost 6 years ago, we converted to LED lights. At that time, we did a lot of research and we forecasted that we would save about 68%. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have saved 68% of the energy usage. In fact, starting in October of last year, we helped the city cut the electricity bill because we share the electricity charges and we returned about an extra $10,000 to the city. Also, another thing that we've done is we've cut water usage. When I came on board in 2012, that year we spent over $30,000 just to water the grass within the subdivision, and that was in spite of the fact that we had a company that we were paying to manage the program. We've cut that back by about 60%, and if you were to take a look at today's charges, our bills today would be in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% if we didn't make those changes. I'm sorry, 55 to 60,000, but we've been able to keep them in the neighborhood of about 20 to 25,000. This year's been especially hot and tough. Probably we'll spend a little bit more than that. Next slide, please. Why me? I have a very wide breadth of experience in business and civil service. Like I said before, I've worked for very small, very large, and medium-sized companies, and I owned my own company for a while. I've also worked with a large number of people within city government on various projects, or some people like Nick on an ongoing basis. I've always been fiscally responsible. I've never been over budget, with the exception of when I first started my career. One of my first jobs out of college was I was the marketing manager for Continental Cablevision. It was a new build in Dearborn Heights in Westland. And at that time, unfortunately, I was over budget on the licensing fees, but that was because we blew out the numbers in terms of the subscribership. So it was actually a good problem. And then finally, I like to think that the work that I've done for my community has benefited my community, and I hope to do the same for the city.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Would you like to answer Mr. Sage's question?
Definitely.
Definitely. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Councilmember Gould.
Sorry, that's all right. I didn't raise my hand quickly enough. Thanks for the great presentation, and thanks for running, and to everybody that's thrown their hat into the ring. You've accomplished an awful lot in Stoney, no doubt about it. Very impressive. I was wondering if you could give a couple of examples of some of the things you've accomplished in partnership with the city over there. How have you worked with the city, not rather in a city within a city?
Okay, well, in partnership with the city, I think one of the first things is the tree preservation program. We actually started that before the tree committee was started, and we did that because we simply noticed that the trees around the subdivision were struggling. Just along Parkdale, Runyon, and DeQuinder, we have, and within the traffic circles and islands within the sub, we have over 400 trees. And we found that at least a quarter of those were diseased or infested with bugs. So that's where we started to treat them on an annual basis. We hired a consultant, not to sell us anything, but to come in and make a recommendation on what to do. We followed that recommendation. And I think some of the things that we learned helped us make some contributions when they revised, or when City Council revised the tree ordinance. Nick knows firsthand of the work that we've done because we've worked extensively with him to try to make the community better.
Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you. Debbie, did you want to speak? Come on up.
Hello, council members. Again, Debbie Allen, 668 North Main Street, Rochester, Michigan. First of all, I will answer your question. Yes, I do intend to run, as I did run last November. I was on the ballot. Congratulations to my successor. Very good. I am asking for the position again because I've been in Rochester 20 years, raised a daughter, school, everything. It's my time to give back, as I said before. I work from home now, thanks to COVID. It's kind of nice because I have very flexible hours, which is something that I feel that I can put the time into the committee, getting everything, together as far as catching up. I think it would be a little bit easier as that. And working with the council on different projects. I'm right on Main Street in between and everything else. I'm a team player. I want to give back to the community. We've all, have heard the campaign and heard my request. This is my second request. I do thank you for the opportunity and everything. I'd like to keep Rochester moving forward at the small town pace that we are. I don't want to keep everybody, so any questions?
No?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Christian?
Good evening, Christian Hauser, 515 7th Street. Mr. Sage, to answer your question, yes. And I
Thank you.
stated it on the phone, and I think I've said that to everyone else on the council during our private conversations. I'm seeking this position for lots of reasons. And it's a decision that I've consulted with Dennis McGee after talking to my wife first and said, hey, this is an opportunity that's presented itself. It's going to take a lot of time. It's certainly going to take me out of the house a little bit more than you may be used to. But we're both believers in community service. And we both believe in giving back to the community that we live in. And that's why I'm here in part today. And so when I spoke to Dennis, who, as you may know, is chairperson of the Planning Commission, I talked to him because I wanted him to hear it from me first, that as happy as I am on planning, as happy as I am to be a contributor on that board, I think that I have the ability to do more. And I think that I have the ability to contribute to the city in ways that are necessarily expansive of what the Planning Commission provides, which is a very important role, but let's be candid. People who sit at this table in the context of city council are the individuals who are responsible for marshaling the resources, the finances, the benefits and services for everyone in this community. And I take that very seriously. So I told Dennis, I'm going to do it, and he supported me. And I told him, though, that if I am not in a position where I get voted on, I don't want you to think I'm going to be unhappy or disgruntled sitting in that side seat, because I won't be. I believe I'm going to get a fair and absolute honest thumb up or thumb down today, and I appreciate you taking the time. I sent all of you a letter last week, and I'm presuming that it was received in your packets, okay? So I'm not going to go on and on about that. But I will tell you just again, I've been a lawyer for 25 years, and I specialize in construction law. I'm a residential builder. When I'm not doing my legal work representing clients, I serve as an arbitrator and a mediator resolving disputes. I'd like to think that I have the demeanor, the temperament, the patience and tolerance to sit where you sit and deal with the issues that are presented to you, big or small, significant, insignificant. Because let's be candid, when someone comes up here as a resident, they have the right to know that their issues are being addressed responsibly, timely, fairly, and in a manner that's unbiased. And I've been there on Planning Commission where someone has said something, and I'm like, well, you know, it may not be significant to me, but it clearly is to them, and we can't lose sight of that. And I can tell the panel, and I can tell the commission that if put in that spot, I will give the same treatment to residents who come in when I sit as the Planning Commission as I would as the City Council. That won't change. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an enormous advocate for community service. And I'd like to think that that community service has established relationships with many of you, but also people who might sit more towards the end of the table, like the Honorable Leanne O'Connor and Nick Banda, and certainly the police chief in the back. And I believe I have a good working relationship with all of them. And we might not see eye to eye on all issues, and we might certainly have disagreements, but you can be disagreeable without being mean or vindictive or hold a grudge or in a situation where you're going to hold that in your mind, because let's face it, it's about a year ago that some of you saw me upset, and I'm over it, okay? If I wasn't over it, if I hadn't matured, I wouldn't be here today. But as I said to many of you before, all of the applicants that day took that very seriously, and we continue to take it seriously because we believe in the system and we believe in the process. If there's any other questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. I think when we spoke on the telephone for all of you or met in person, I addressed many of the questions that were posed. But if something has come up since then, I'm happy to answer. And I ask that you just judge everyone on the merits, judge everyone on their qualifications. Listen, everyone's qualified. Everyone is capable, and everyone is up here today because They love where they live, and they want this city to continue to improve. None of us would be here if we felt that, oh, this is not a big deal. It is a big deal, because you're one of 7 representatives of the people who live in this city. And it doesn't, it's not lost on me. So to the extent that you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just ask for your support. And again, Mr. Sage, to answer your question, if they get the necessary number of votes, 100%, I would seek that open spot in November of 23, okay? Any questions?
Very good, thank you. Questions?
Not all at once?
No?
Okay.
All good?
All right. Thank you, everyone.
We know
Thank
you.
Right.
Okay.
So again, just want to thank everybody for participating in the process. Everyone up here who's run for office knows if you're putting yourself out there, it's not always pleasant, so thank you. And we, as a city, we need people involved and stuff, and I think all you people have put in a lot of service and stuff, so I want to just thank you. The council thanks you and stuff. So now we get the fun part of making a very, very difficult decision. So I'm going to open the floor for nominations, and we will vote, and we will vote until somebody gets 4 votes or not. So is there nomination, Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to place a nomination for Marilyn Trent.
Okay, is there another nomination, Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I would like to place a nomination for Christian Hauser.
Okay. Is there a further nomination? Okay, so we will stop the nominations there. So we have a nomination for Marilyn Trent, and we have a nomination for Christian Hauser. So I will call the roll now for Marilyn Trent. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
No.
Sage.
Yes.
Okay, so that is 5 votes. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so Marilyn Trent is appointed to the City Council. Congratulations, Marilyn. And Marilyn will be seated at the next City Council meeting, which will be August 17th, where we will, our first meeting, we will be picking a new city manager, or at least interviewing city managers. So again, I'd just like to say again, I'm sorry.
Will she be at our next city council meeting is not the 17th. She's going to be part of the.
22nd.
Well, actually, the next the official city council meeting is the 17th.
So for the interviews?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So she'll be
I just
seated.
wanted to clarify because.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
assuming you can make the 17th. Okay, and then you need to work with the city clerk to get sworn in and things like that. And again, the people I talked to individually, it was not a vote against anybody that I chose. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvia?
Yeah, thank you. I really want to echo those comments, Mayor, that it takes a lot of courage to step forward, and I just really want to thank everyone for doing that. And there really are many of you already are serving in different capacities, whether it be Planning Commission or on your homeowners association, but there are some opportunities within other boards and commissions that we have openings. We have openings on City Beautiful. We likely will have an opening on Planning Commission. We have an opening on Opeb, which is our board that oversees the investments for retiree health care and pension funds. So there are some great opportunities that I'd encourage even those that are not here today to jump in and participate in those. And just thank you. Thank you so much for everyone.
Very good. Any further comments? Okay, again, thank you for the last time. Thank you, everybody. Okay, now we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. The minutes did not make it to the meeting this time, so we are going to approve them on the next council meeting. So we're going to move to the approval of the consent agenda. First is a consideration of a special event application from Woodside Bible Church to hold the Woodside Collective Young Adults service in the band shell on Sunday, August 21st. And next is consideration of a special event application from A-Quest Wealth Strategies to hold a financial planning seminar in the Lions Club Amphitheater on Tuesday, September 20th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's a long meeting.
Markets are bad.
There's a lot of financial planning going on there. Counsel.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Gould. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the review of the current special event calendar. You had that?
Yes.
Councilmember Gould, you good with
Yes.
that? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvia.
Yeah, just wanted to comment that I was really happy to see that the Lions Club Amphitheater is getting some use. That's a great space that I don't think gets activated as much. But just a question, what is the process to reserve it? I went to the website, it's sort of listed. Is there a fee? Can anyone reserve it? What's the process?
I think Chief gets that one.
All right, Chief.
It's more steps in.
We would handle that the same as in the way that we do the band shell through the special event process. So if we get calls about requests for that area, kind of evaluate what's the best fit for that area, and we would use the special event process. So you'd be getting that knowledge just as you have today.
Okay, so no stated cost, though?
Well, it's costs, if there are costs that are associated to support the event, then
Got it.
they're charged back depending on the type of event.
Got it. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson. Yes. Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. There's no old business or table items. There are no public hearings. Legislative deliberation is consideration of an ordinance amendment to zoning code section 2703, site plan, schedule a public hearing. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. We've been working with the Planning Commission about trying to clarify the process. So there's policies and then there's process. And Attorney Crott likes us to follow what's written. And to bring up an old name for the past member, Mr. Zoke used to come in and say, if you have it in the books and you're not going to follow it, why do you even have it there? And Attorney Crott's been really good about kind of finding these rabbit holes and then straightening this out. So we work with the Planning Commission. Patrick Maher, our new planning and zoning person, has a wealth of knowledge on that and helped streamline that. He presented to Jeff and Attorney Crott. They worked it through. He took it to the Planning Commission, went through a public hearing there, and now it's here for referral. So it's really to tighten up the process. It makes it so when someone comes in, they know exactly what they're going to face instead of, I think you do it this way, you think you do it that way. We've been consistent how we do it, but it's better to have it in writing so that any proposal and any developer can clearly understand what the journey is ahead of them. So, Jeff, if there's anything else?
City Attorney?
Yeah, no, that's a great summary. So we took what we do and we put it into writing. And if you look at what's in 2703 sub A now, it's just nothing there. And so we would walk, just like Nick said, we would walk someone through the entire process from when they submit it, where it goes, then what, and then it gets to Planning Commission. And so there really isn't anything new other than what we already do. The one thing that we always talk about is, well, public hearings. Well, what's the notice requirements? What's this? And throughout the zoning code and regular code, for that matter, there's public hearing requirements that are different based on, here, which one do we follow for this? So we said for site plans, this is what we do, which is what you would normally, which is what we do, 300 feet and, 15 days in the newspaper. So Planning Commission took a look at it because, to be honest, there isn't actually a public hearing requirement in state law for just a normal site plan. But the city has made that a policy, and they just do that for every site plan review. And the Planning Commission thought that was a good practice to continue to make sure the surrounding area knows what's being approved or consideration for improved. So we specifically put that in there, so now there's no confusion that a public hearing will be held. Here's who it's going to be noticed to, and how far it's going to go out, and how much time in advance, just so everyone's on the same page. So I think it's a codification of what the city does that seems to be working, and we think it's clear. But certainly if there's questions, happy to answer it. There is a required public hearing because this is a zoning ordinance change. So the requested action today is to set it for a public hearing. At that hearing, then you would move it for first reading and introduction. And then at the next meeting after that, then it would be for second reading and adoption, assuming that city council wishes to proceed in that fashion.
And Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure everybody knows, this wasn't to make it more arduous. It was to clarify. Planning Commission's like, you're not slowing this down or making it more difficult, right? Nope, it was just to clarify.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I serve on the Planning Commission, so I did want to add some additional comments that both the city manager and the city attorney mentioned. It's simply a codification of the process we already follow. And the process is good because it actually adds a level of transparency to a site plan. It just makes good sense, good business sense. So I would make the motion to move to a public hearing so that we can enter in for first reading and adoption.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Sage, support by Councilmember Peterson. Discussion? Councilmember Gould.
So I think I appreciate what's happened here, and it's always a good idea to actually write down what you're planning, or the way you're behaving and doing things. But is there any possibility that any entity might get chafed that this is the way we've been operating? It's not really in accordance with what we have in writing previously?
Mr. City Attorney.
I don't think so, because to be honest, the way that when someone comes to talk to Nick or talk to the planner, what you see here is what they're told is the process it goes through. So there's no one, there's really, because before it says, upon receipt, the Planning Commission is going to act within 45 days. Well, with a public hearing requirement, you just couldn't meet that, and so, and people, I don't think we've been challenged like, wait a minute, you got to act within 45 days, because they know it's a process, and it's a good process. Planning Commission does a real nice job of going through it, and so I don't think anybody would be caught by this, because this is essentially what they're told we do anyway.
Can I add to that, Mr. Mayor? I think you'll appreciate this more than anybody being on the Planning Commission so long, that it used to be, if you brought your plans in, you got on an agenda. And it could take 3 or 4 months for us to get out of the petitioner the appropriate thing so Vidya could even review it, or the attorney could review it. And then if someone really wanted to be a stickler, hey, it's 45 days, you didn't give us what we need. So the Planning Commission made it very clear, don't come without a completed application. Here's a checklist that's detailed down to the end so that you can, it's on you to give us the information so we can start the process. And then we act within 30 days. So we've never come close to 45, but it did help a lot when the Planning Commission kind of put their foot down and said, no more of this sloppy stuff with 73 comments, literally one had on there, just so they could get it in. They wanted us to be their engineer, us to be their planner, and now the respect from the business community is at a way higher level because they know what the bar is now to come in. So it's been a really good morphing, if you will, of the process, and it's fair to everybody.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, City Manager Banda, would we be able to meet the requirement for the September 26th City Council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
September or?
Yes, September.
September.
We'll have to set the public hearing for the 26th, and then we could finish it within 30 days after that.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. Under reports on regular business is confirmation of the mayoral appointment to the Principal Shopping District, Karen Malsbury. Is there support?
Sure. Yep. Motion to accept as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is a confirmation of a city council appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Ray Theaton.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Your Honor, before we go on, let council know we still currently have 2 alternate positions on the Board of Review. We have received applications as a city council appointment. I'll forward those applications to everyone tomorrow, and then that'll give you 2 weeks, and that'll be on the council's agenda for the next meeting.
Very good, thank you. We already did the OPC budget, we approved that. Next is a consideration request for property transfer affidavit penalty waiver for 432 Hill. Mr. Maggio, welcome.
Thank you, Council. Before you tonight, we have a formal request from myself on behalf of the property owner of 432 Hill to have the property transfer late fee waived. The reason this is being requested is they had purchased, essentially really traded, a small sliver of property next to the neighbor's driveway. The way the driveway sits, it just makes more sense with the landscape and everything for the owner to take care of that. They came in, all paperwork was filed on time, worked with the county, got the new parcel lines drawn, everything was good. Found that they require a property transfer affidavit for the small strip of land that was now combined into the new property. Got that form to the property owner, that was signed, filed, but by Michigan statute, the only body, even in clerical errors, that can waive it is City Council, unless it's delegated otherwise. So to fix this potentially coming up in the future, we are including the PTA forms in with the splits and combinations packets. We had not had this come up in my tenure before, but we are looking to make sure it doesn't happen to slip through the cracks into the future. So that is the request. I can answer any other questions on that.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing the fix for the future. I appreciate that, so it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
Make a motion to approve the removal of the $200 penalty for 423 Hill Street.
Support.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia, support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion? Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, I just, and I'm okay with it this time. I just feel that when you do buy and sell property, you were given that form, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't turned in, but it's clearly states on there if it's not, you do get a fine, so.
Very good. Absolutely. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council.
Next is consideration of an assessing contract with Oakland County for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
You're good, Marcy, you're good.
This one's a regular, but go ahead, Marcy, sorry.
Go ahead, Marcy, if you would.
Let her have her airtime.
Come on, Marcy.
Come on.
I'm good with the so moved. So before you tonight is the 2022 assessing services contract from Oakland County. It's no change in how we've done our business. Oakland County Equalization provides the assessing service for the city of Rochester. They perform a variety of duties which are outlined in the memo. They prepare and defend the annual assessment for us and are the start of the tax season for the city. So we ask for your approval to move forward utilizing the Oakland County Equalization Service for our assessing services, please.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson,
Support.
support by Councilmember Sage. Discussion?
Just a comment.
Councilmember Peterson.
No, I just want to comment on that. It's because I do know it's what we've done every year. But I appreciate Oakland County and what they do for doing this, and that we're not a community that does it ourselves. I think this is by far a better way to do it, and it's more fair because you're keeping in with how the county is running the equalization of every community that they do take care of, because there's only a couple that they don't.
And you're right on, because it cost about $90,000 for this service, but they throw the most qualified individuals at each task. So we have 4 different people at the county that support the city. So you couldn't afford that 4 people for the $90,000 that's provided in this service. So you're spot on.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. So when in our annual process do we get any sort of report out from the assessor's office? My remembrance is we're always reviewing the contract, but when do we get any feedback from them?
A couple of years ago, Brian Paris presented to the city council, and upon request, they would be glad to do that annually. They didn't do it during the COVID time, but they would be welcome. We're actually meeting with Brian next week, so we can ask him what his schedule would permit if council would like to have a dedicated presentation from the assessing team.
Yeah, and whenever it makes sense in the timeline.
Sure. Yeah, we'll definitely ask.
Very good.
Just one more comment, and I just appreciate the city utilizing all the services that Oakland County does provide. It's all our taxpayer dollars, and I think they're a wealth of knowledge there.
You're right, yeah. Thank you.
And I agree, and I'd just like to add, I was on the council when we decided we didn't want to use the county and we could go do it cheaper, and it was a disaster, and we went back to the county as soon as we could. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
And then we have, Marcy, we have a receipt of the check registry, and any,
Yep, 728.
all good? Okay. Next, receive a report from the various boards and commissions. A report from the ZBA, Mr. City Manager.
Yep, I'll take that one. So we had two items on ZBA. It's a robust year. I think we've met almost every month so far, and normally that's not the case. We've gone 2 years without a case, which is good because that means the zoning ordinance and the ordinances in place work if you don't have to go to the zoning board. But there are certain circumstances that folks use that board. And thank you for filling the one position because we were down to 5, and it gets hard to get everybody there all the time. So we need those 2 alternates. So the first one was a carryover from the last meeting. A gentleman on 4th Street bought a home, renovated the home, significantly added on to it, and the last step was to build a garage in the back. There's a detached garage there, and it's third world. It's not good. So he wanted to raise it, and this is kind of a neat story, actually, to juggle his desire to be environmentally friendly, he has to have a long driveway to get back to the detached garage. If he wanted to get a 2-story garage over 12 feet, he would have to attach it to his home. To do that, if you can picture, concrete, no backyard. So he came in, met with the neighbors, they supported him. He came in and said, I'll put the garage and not make it any bigger, I just want it taller. This is close to my heart because he ties flies and he wants to have a room upstairs that he can tie his flies, have a cigar, because his wife won't let him smoke a cigar in the home. That's exactly what he said. So he came in and said, I'm a non-conforming garage because I'm only 1.8 feet, 1 foot 8 inches off the side yard, but I'm 5 in the rear. So I would like to extend it out and keep that one wall non-conforming. So we looked at 2 different things. And he said, I want to get that second story, I need to be at 13 feet, 10 inches. The zoning ordinance says 12 feet for a garage. We have never granted a waiver for a taller garage. What came to light was in the past, some building officials prior to even Mr. Brown have approved 13 feet because they thought it was 13 feet somehow. So there's 5 or 6 in town that are 13 feet. So we weighed all that out, and they went back to and said, there's a great difference there. Listen, can you just get it down to a smaller number? Change the architects on the board, help them design the trusses to make it smaller. So he got it down to 8 inches. And so he came back at the last meeting, and they still thought you need to give us some background of others in the neighborhood that we can relate to because you are self-creating a hardship. And zoning boards of appeals have to make a decision when you don't self-create. And he tried to drop the grades, et cetera. So they tabled it again instead of denying it, because if you're denied, you can't come back for a year, and you have to change circumstances. So we're working with that gentleman. Mr. Bowden's been very good to work with, and he understands the predicament there and where they can't justify that a former building official did something that they thought was a different policy, first of all. Second, interesting, Roger Knapp's old home up on North Lane, which would be at the city's property, the city's border, way in the back was that beautiful big home that was turned into a bed and breakfast by Don Jagoda, if you remember that. Don got bored with it. His wife and his brother were running it. They got bored with it. They sold it to a gentleman and said, I'm going to turn it back into a single-family home. Well, we had rezoned that to RM1 so they could have a bed and breakfast. So the new gentleman rezoned it back to R1 so he could build the home, and we don't know why, but he gutted it and then walked away from it. So raccoons live in it, not a human. So Mr. Peter Kalash, who has just recently bought the Spartan Hotel. And his family's now taking that over, running it. They're in front of the planning commission to do a redo of the whole Spartan. His family is going to run that hotel. So Peter went to the property owner and said, I'll buy this property, but I would like to have two homes, one for me and one for my son, his family and then his son's family. That would take a lot split. Both resulting lots were plenty big in size and frontage, but if you've ever been down that driveway, it's a little skinny 16-foot driveway that comes out to Main Street. The ordinance says you have to have the frontage on a main drive, on a main thoroughfare. So technically, the little driveway, even though it's private, didn't meet it. So I worked with Jeff and we wrote an ordinance. We wrote a case that we could support that. Went to the zoning board, had a robust discussion, and why not get more land from the apartments next door because they share the driveway, and they ended up approving his request as is, so it remains a private drive, and he can split it into two parcels, and we'll have two new homes on the property. So that was approved. So it was a good meeting. That's good zoning stuff, kind of a zoning geek stuff. So that's it.
That bed and breakfast was beautiful.
It was awesome.
I can't imagine somebody getting that.
I know, best story ever. We had a staff meeting there, and James was our city manager, and he went to go to the bathroom, and about 10 minutes later, like, what happened to James? And he locked himself. They had a key at the top of this door that you didn't know you had to turn it to. It would lock itself. So he was stuck in this bathroom. We couldn't hear him. So he was in there for like 20 minutes before we found him. So we always remind him of that if we ever see him. So
Probably improve the story if like the police chief had to come in and shoot,
I think he did.
shoot his gun and, you know.
He found him.
He got him out. Other thing. Thank you. Next, we have a report from the Opeb board. Councilmember Gould?
Sure.
You want to, or?
Well, we could split it perhaps. Okay. It was kind of, it was our typical update from Morgan Stanley on performance. Was a bit of a down mood at the meeting, I would say, as the Fed was pivoting, as they described it. The main thrust of the meeting was bringing T. Rowe Price representatives in to explain their recent extreme underperformance. And that went on for pretty much, we were there for a good hour and a half. We ended the meeting by requesting Morgan Stanley to develop some sort of a system so that we would have an earlier trigger, a sort of a warning system if things were going that far south that quickly. That does it justice.
I would say T. Rowe Price had some splaining to do. And they did. Councilmember Albrecht.
Was it the market, or was it T. Rowe Price's performance to respond to the market?
It was, according to Morgan Stanley, was T. Rowe Price's failure to respond to the market.
So the asset valuation was like at 15%, and T. Rowe was down like 20. So they didn't perform within the thing. So they had some good excuses, I would say.
I was really hoping Councilmember Sage would have been there so he could give that report instead of me.
Yeah. It's been up for a long time, but this was down. Next, receive a report from the Planning Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we reviewed a site plan for Par Pharmaceuticals for interior renovation and a second-story addition. We approved that site plan as presented. We've already discussed the ordinance on site plan approval here tonight. We also heard a proposal from the owner of what is going to be called the Rochester Corner Bar, which is the existing Penny Black facility. And we've set a public hearing for September 6th, I believe, our next Planning Commission meeting. And the final proposal we heard was from the Dearborn Federal Credit Union. You're probably familiar with this building. It's right next to the BP. It used to be the Martial Arts Center there. The proposal as presented was debated amongst the members of the Planning Commission, and it was requested that they bring back some new design options that might be more fitting to the downtown and nature of Main Street. So we're waiting to hear that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, today, Patrick and I met with them. You're going to be blown away. They got it. We took them out, showed them a couple. It's clean, sharp, minimal, and they're happy, and we're really happy. So I think you're really going to like it. So we just did that this afternoon.
Great.
Yeah, it needed a little,
Yes.
Charm?
It was a bit overwhelming.
yes, it needed some work. How's that? Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, Solar Onyx was on there.
Solaronics was supposed to be on the meeting, and they were not on the meeting, and actually, we haven't seen a proposal yet, but there's talk of large apartment units going in there, so that's going to be an interesting issue coming forward.
Okay.
I think they're supposed to be at the next meeting.
They are.
Mr.
Mayor
Mayor,
Pro Tem Salvia?
on that, would that be a special project? Or just planning
Yes.
commission approval?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, they could request a rezoning to clean it up if they wanted to go to RM1 or RM2. So what they're asking for is an apartment complex. So that's one way they could go. That's more traditional, but again, that's going to be tough because of the parcel. So probably a special project.
Yeah, so it will, and probably coming to city council.
I would think
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Either way, it's rezoning or a special project would come here.
And I would say there's already a lot of interest in the local community around there. Is that a nice way of saying that?
That's a fair assessment.
That's fair.
Next, we have a receipt of report from the Principal Shopping District. Councilmember Gould?
Sure. This was a meeting that was chock full of information, but I'll just go through the agenda quickly. There was a member resignation, Suzette Louise. We just appointed the replacement this evening, Karen Melsbury. So welcome to Karen, it's a great committee. The group at Chrissy Trevorrow and her crew are requesting the typical Halloween events and Kringle Market are brought back, so those will be coming before us soon. Looks like it's going to be great. They're going to still planning a trick-or-treat downtown on October 15th, which is a Saturday, from 3:30 to about 6:30, with a trick-or-treat event starting right off at 3:30, around 5-ish, a costume parade, and then a Halloween fest, which is sort of the get-together. They're expecting about 1,000 kids there down in the common area by where the farmers market is. Lots of great food options. They're looking for sponsors. I think they're reaching out to places like the Robot Garage and such to sponsor it. So there's going to be taco trucks there. They're looking for other businesses. If anybody knows of any kid-related businesses, they'd love to have some more. The other was the Kringle Market, the 15th annual Kringle Market. They're anticipating that'll be Friday, December 2nd from 4 to 10, and Saturday, December 3rd from noon to 10. It's the standard. They have about 37 vendors, 47 spaces. They're getting so much interest. They're going to adjourn method of choosing participants because these things are getting a lot more popular, and that's all thanks to those folks, I would say. There was a lot of discussion around things to do around the holidays that don't really cost a lot of money. So they've been going out to a lot of meetings, Main Street meetings and stuff, and bringing back a lot of really great ideas. One of them, the neighborhood lights battle, for example, virtually free for the city. Certainly gets a lot of holiday spirit and camaraderie going in the neighborhoods. They talked briefly about trying to do some kind of a bar decorating contest where bar owners would just, snow and decorations everywhere to the max. I'm going to hold off on that, but they are moving forward, hopefully, with an event they're calling Pancakes and PJs, which the fire chief has graciously agreed to participate in, I believe, at least in concept thus far. Kind of run like the spaghetti dinners that take place there. Maybe about 120 people or so. It'd be an evening event where families come in all matching PJs and stuff like that and have a really lovely time. The holiday event updates, they have about 20 of the trees sold from the Festival of Trees. Small Business Saturday, Friday Small Business Saturday is 11:25 to 11:26. They already have Genesis Credit Union providing some plaid totes. You, kind of like last time, if you send in a photo of your purchase, you're entered into a shopping spree. They've got gift cards lined up. The snowman stroll, they're working on that. They're going to have these big fiberglass snowmen coming in. They're doing the gift card match program again.
Was a fly,
I saw it. I'm glad you got rid of that. It was messing me up. And then they're going to do the cookie stroll again. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. It was a great meeting. Did I catch everything, you think, Nick?
I think you did. Also, the cookies are number one there.
The cookies are not, okay. Yep.
Very good, thanks. Councilmember Albrecht.
I see the fire chief here, and when you were talking about the pajamas and
Pancakes and PJs.
Fire chief, who is also a chef, are we going to do more of the, I haven't, spaghetti dinners and the pancake breakfast and things of that sort as the fall comes around?
We're just looking for the groups that may be interested in that and to see what happens. Surprisingly enough, I've gotten a lot of people call back to the fire station saying, when are we doing them again? So we'll see what happens. Christie came up with PJs and pancakes, and that ought to be a fun event to go ahead and for even for the people, just to serve people in their pajamas and see how everybody matches. So.
Or not.
Or not.
I think we should all go.
I think you should.
Yes? Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
That's okay,
It's a scary thought.
unless everyone's wearing heels and skirts.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further public comment? Brian, doesn't look like anybody out here? No? Okay. On to general miscellaneous. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to put a couple of things we talked about in our miscellaneous. We want to let all council know, and then it's online in the packet so the community can know what's going on. So special thank you to the pollinators and Maryland's group. They came in on a Saturday, and Carrie Martin, especially shout out to Carrie from the parks, who really loves horticulture and what she does. And they came in and got an army there, and the pictures are in your packet. And they had a plan to do a section of the river to get rid of the invasive. So remember when we redid the river, we put a lot of native plants in there, but as nature takes over, the invasives got in, and they tripled what they thought they were going to do. It was amazing. So they're going to maybe look to do another one in the fall. So I just wanted to give them the river thanks you, because all that stuff does is create shade for the trout. And right now, if you've seen until the last few days, that river's as dry as it's ever been. That's pretty scary. So anything we can do to create the proper habitat for the trout is a good thing. And then second, there weren't pictures in here, but because the guys were too humble, but they sit and look at lunch at the basketball courts that are not good. We're lucky if we have chains on there and the cracks in the sidewalk. And Jason and the guys got together, found a contractor, came in and cut the cracks, sealed them, and then sealed the whole courts and restriped it. And there's somebody out there all the time. So duly appreciated of the DPW folks for stepping that up. They didn't have to do that. They found money at the end of the budget. Treasurer Maggio said you have maintenance money that you didn't spend. So if you're going to do something constructive, which we did, and we're very happy about that. So that's a good thing. So and then the receipt of the planning or the building and zoning report is in your packet also. That's all I have.
Very good.
Oh, I do have one more thing. I think you're going to ask is the 17th, we mentioned special council meeting. So all four candidates, I'm not sure when we told you this last, but they all agreed. Joellen's been unbelievably thorough. She went through 5 references for all 4. We have 20 pages of references. And we went over with James. He gave us questions. Then her and I went over that. And then she got on the phone and had a detailed manuscript, basically writing of everything you'd ever going to want to know. You're going to get all that in a packet, so you'll know their backgrounds. They all passed. The chief did a Clemens check. They passed all that, and then their personal reference, no red flags. So there's 4 great candidates, and then we set up now. Worked with the mayor, and we're going to do this. So all 4 are going to go on a 3-stop tour. So I'm taking one gentleman first in the morning. And we start at the fire station for 30 minutes. Then we go to the DPW, stop by the collaboration studio, and the department heads will stay at their stations, if you will. So when people come there, they can see them in their own habitat, and they can ask whatever they want. This is not formal questions. It's like, hey, who are you? What do you know about Rochester? Let me tell you what I do. Then we bring them back to the police station, City Hall, walk them through, and introduce them to staff, and then Joellen's taking one. Holly Myers, who's been here a long time, is taking one person. And we're going to rotate so we're never in the same spot at the same time. And then I'm going to pick up our internal candidate and take him to make sure that he gets the exact same treatment from everybody knowing he's a candidate for city manager, and we're going to do that. Meet together as a group, and I talked about this with the mayor again, that at 4:30, the department heads will come back, just do a triage, put that in writing through this Google search thing that James has got, and then get that information to you, just not who you should hire, but our observations during our times, so you can have the benefit of that. And then that will get to you too for the 6 o'clock meeting. Interviews are set up, boom, 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 and we're ready to roll, so.
And we're going to have questions
Yes.
sent to us.
Yes.
That each one of us will have a question.
There's 8 questions. The last one is James saying, any questions for us? So each of you will have your own question, and we'll be consistent in that interview process.
Right, and then the consideration, the anticipation is we will not vote the night of the 17th. We were going to meet again the next night, and then we will vote or not vote.
Right. And James said, if you narrowed it down to 2, or if you want to use the 18th, that's a slotted meeting and notified, the clerk took care of that. And then if you wanted to have a second interview, we could do it that next night or whatever.
So we can interview, and they all have agreed to interview the next night if we choose. But again, we will not be making the anticipation is we will not be making a decision the first night. And again, and just for our internal candidate, and myself talking with Nick, we want to treat our internal candidate with nothing special, but nothing not special, I guess is what you're saying, treat him equally. And so that's why he's going to go around and talk to the different departments, and he'll get a tour of the fire hall and some things like that. So.
Mr. Mayor, a quick question. So I know when we first discussed this to schedule those 2 nights, there was a thought to start at 5, and I had some conflicts, but I have resolved those conflicts. And if there is an amenable position by the other council members, I would be.
I think we talked about that. I think everybody would like to meet at 5, but they've already set it up at 6 and set with some of the people are coming from the distance.
Okay, how about on the 18th?
We could do the 18th at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do the 18th at 5 if people are.
If you want to.
But,
Sure.
yeah.
I'll look.
So.
Please, Chuck. Thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody has a problem with 5 o'clock on the 18th, let us know, then we'll meet at 6. I mean, we're set for 6 now.
On the 17th?
18th.
Oh, and both, nice.
No, the 17th, the candidates were all set up, and our interviews and our travels were all set up around 6. So appreciate the effort, but we're going to stick to 6 on that one, because we want some time. James needs some time to prepare everything. We get him to get to you before the 6 o'clock meeting.
But we're moving the 18th to 5.
Unless somebody has a problem.
Unless there's a conflict.
Right.
Unless Maryland has a conflict.
I was looking at my calendar.
Okay, so we'll plan on 5 o'clock on the 18th.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Well, I don't know yet. I'll
Okay,
have to let you,
thank you.
I'll have to let you know.
And it's okay, obviously, either way. Madam Clerk, you had an election.
We had another successful election. Our totals were to the county by 10 p.m. We continue to far exceed previous benchmarks set by absentee ballots for the like elections from years ago. By example, 4 years ago for this August election, I sent out 970-some ballots, got back 875. This election, we sent out over 2,200 absentee ballots, got back 1,775. 615 of those came in just between Saturday and Election Day. I would like to think that's because we sent out a news flash saying, hey, get your absentee ballot in. But 275 of those came in on Election Day. That's a lot. So that continues to grow. And I would like to say thank you to all of the citizens that gave kind comments. I am at receiving, of course, the expected negative comments, but I have noticed that this election cycle, there was a lot more people that took the time to say thank you, we appreciate you, we know we have confidence in your election, so that was nice to hear a counter to some of the other comments. So thank you for that.
Very good. I think we can all be proud that we have very good elections in Rochester, and that's exactly what we want. Mr. City Attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Gould.
Just congratulations again, Marilyn. I'm excited to work with you on council. Just a reminder, this August 13th is the last junk in the trunk.
Ooh.
Yeah, I asked why, and they said because the junk was increasing, not the good stuff. So don't know if that'll be back. And it is Farmers Market Week, I'm told, this week. So make sure to get out to the Farmers Market. Also wildly successful, such that they may have to start vetting people for that as well. So things are going well. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to publicly comment on the Par Pharmaceuticals Endo press release. Many of us have noticed the cranes just to the left of the OPC, and they are having an event on August 16th, just celebrating what they're doing there. Their press release says that they've entered into a cooperative agreement to expand the sterile fill finish manufacturing production capacity at their Rochester plant. And under the terms of the agreement, they're going to establish a new sterile fill finish manufacturing, processing liquid BSL2 containment sterile products. To me, what's exciting is this was funded $90 million through the U.S. federal government. Total cost was $120 million. So this is increasing capacity, adding, I don't know if they added jobs, but they are our largest employer here in Rochester. So to me, it's exciting when we see those cranes and good things happening.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Sage.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Councilmember Albrecht.
I also want to welcome Marilyn to City Council, and we had great candidates, and all of us up here know what it takes to run for office and the commitment that goes with it. So I hope those that were not selected tonight take Councilmember Sage's question to heart and run in November of 2023, because the packets I received, the information we all received and read, they were all qualified candidates. So thank you to all of them, and again, welcome, Marilyn.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, and I too want to thank you, Marilyn, for running and for being selected. So I look forward to working with you.
Very good. Just a couple things. Again, we talked about August 17th is when we are going to be interviewing city manager candidates. It is open to the public. It's going to be city council members only asking questions, but it's open to the public. It will be on TV, our local TV, so that is a big event. And I'm going to be working with the city manager and talking about making another attempt at a state of the city to introduce the new city manager. So that might be a unique opportunity to do that. And also, I just want to give, finally, a shout out to the fire department. I haven't talked just about the chief. I've been at, I spend some time at Cedar Brook, and I've been there where some people have had to, Cedar Brook has had to call 911, and the amount of time, I know it's close, but the amount of time it takes the fire department to get out there is unbelievable. I mean, it's like 3-4 minutes. They're there, they're nice, they're professional. They do a great job. They have like special keys at how to get into different places around town. So it's really good, and so I want to thank the fire department for their professionalism. And also, I think it really shows that having, a full-time fire department, assuming that the response times are that low, it's really going to save lives. So, I mean, I'm really proud of the fire department and the city council for agreeing to, spend that money, which we didn't want to spend and didn't want to do, but I think was necessary. So thank you to the fire department. And that's all I have. We will see everybody next Wednesday, the 17th. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.